in this particular class, we're looking at Module 3, Part B. I'll call it Part B. This week, I wanted to take a practical example because this stuff, unless you actually do it, it doesn't really stick, right? So I tried to come up with a decent example here that's simple enough, but straightforward enough to be able to illustrate the concept and how it's practically applied. So tonight, we're going to develop a strategy for a business. Now, instead of asking you, I said, okay, well, what have we got a business? Let's think of a business. Let's think of a business here that we can take through this process that we've outlined and look at what do we actually do in those particular phases. So let's look at the company. I got my slide backward there. Let's take a look at a hypothetical company, Northern Machining. So here's Northern Machining. It is a new business, brand new. That's important. Looking to sell services to companies involved in Newfoundland offshore. Okay, so they know Newfoundland Machining, Northern Machining has said we want to deal with offshore oil and gas. That's where we're going to focus. Again, a target market. That's sort of where we're going. And they're going to offer a couple of key services. They're going to offer machining services and welding services. Okay. To accomplish this, they have on staff already 3 journeyman machinists and a welder. And the owner is one of the firm's machinists. So we've got this situation where that kind of sets the stage for what we got going on here. Okay. Now, we need to be able to really look at the step 1 of this process. And step 1 of this process is really to do a SWOT analysis for this company. Now I've been giving you a lot of information, so we're just going to make it up. We're going to paste it up and say, okay, look, this company, for example, has some strengths. Okay, let's take a look at some of their strengths, some of their weaknesses, some of their threats, and some of their opportunities. So if we looked at this company, I'll just bump this up again. One of the key strengths that this company got is it got journeyman machinists, Red Seal machinist. Okay, that's important because that's going to lead to higher quality work. Okay, they got 1 journeyman welder. Again, going to lead to more high quality work. So they got a staff of 4 to be able to get things done, heavier on the machining end than on the welding end. Okay. They're the largest shop in eastern Newfoundland. So right off the bat, you know that you've got some size working at you. And they got 3 lathes, 2 mills, 1 large welding machine. Okay, so that's kind of where they sit right now. They're ISO certified, which is important because you're not going to get any contracts with the larger companies unless you have some form of certification. So those are things that company has that they feel is an advantage to them over their nearest competitors. They've got journeyman machinists. They've got good equipment. They've got this ISO certification. That would be considered strengths. Weaknesses, well, usually strengths and weaknesses go hand in hand. They exist, but they don't have a lot of experience bidding and contracting. So other companies might have more experience there. So that's saying, well, how do we get revenue coming in if we can't win contracts because we're not sure how to do it? That's identifying a weakness relative to their competitors. And they got limited capacity. Realistically, it's a small shop. And realistically, if we look at their welding in particular, their capacity is really limited with regards to welding. Okay, so that should set off some thoughts in your mind right off the bat to say, well, how can we improve the weaknesses? What can we do to adjust those weaknesses? Are they truly weaknesses? Because do our customers, the products that we sell, do it relate to those weaknesses strongly? Should we get more welders, for example? Okay. If we look at potential opportunities out there, which are in the external environment that have nothing to do, that we just piggyback on, we can't change. On the left, the strengths and weaknesses, we can change these. On the right, the opportunities, threats, we can't change those. We just have to deal with them or manage them. So opportunities, price of oil is going up. That's good because higher oil means more oil exploration. More oil exploration means more companies. More companies means more potential sales. COVID subsiding. Okay, the COVID threw everyone off. The fact that we could see that it's probably in the back door now, or we've shown it the door, that will make it easier to run a business. Come by chance owners, if you're here in Eastern Newfoundland, come by chance owners are new. They're building all kinds of product. New lease on life could be a potential opportunity there. And government funding, ACOAs of the world and other entities out there might want to help develop that industry. It might be easier to get some funding, seeing the industry we're in relative to where the business is. So those are all opportunities out there that we could take advantage of if we get ourselves organized to do it. Now, our competitors can take advantage of those exact same things. So, that is the world as it is. He who goes first probably is, or who goes first or strongest is one who's going to win on that one. Some of the threats, workforce challenges. There is not a company out there that you work for or I work for that is not suffering from workforce challenges. It's the demographic bubble is hitting, and it's hard to get skilled employees. These sorts of things, again, every company faces that. Environmental movement, government policy. If Beta Nord never got okayed, that could have been a serious blow to the oil industry. Looking forward, will any other oil projects be okayed? Decline in the economy. Newfoundland's economy is always kind of icky-bicky. Things aren't really hot here now. Will they heat up? Don't know. And maybe COVID will reemerge. Could be a potential. So those are what are considered as threats. We can't do anything about them, but we need to think about them and say, do we prepare? It's like worrying about that moose crossing in front of you on the highway. You think about it. You don't close your eyes and drive as fast as you can, right? You slow down and you keep your eyes open. So this when we think of the environmental scan, we ask questions like, what are the trends in the marketplace? What favors you? What doesn't favor you? What are the competitive trends? What do you benefit from? What's going to pose a threat? What are demographic trends? What's working for you? What's working against you? Technology, what's working for you? What's working against you? Political, what's working for you? What's working against you? And in terms of Northern Machining, they could look at that and say, well, the economy's picking up, oil price rising, aging workforce, environmentalism, government policy might be working against us. More business in the case of competitives. If there's money to be made, more businesses are going to be getting into this business, providing these services. The market is growing, which kind of helps because a bigger market means there's a bigger pie in which to take a slice out of. But as long as the market is growing, if the market shrinks, then you'll have some challenges. Are the demographics in your favor? Well, workforce is aging, newer workers. The thing is with newer workers, you could say they've learned new skills to drive new equipment to be able to make the business more efficient and effective. So it could be an advantage there. For example, CNC, okay, in terms of welding or machining. Political legal thing is the government pushing green energy projects. Maybe there's opportunity in green energy. We don't know. But again, those are the things that we need to really concern ourselves with in Northern Machining. In terms of the planning phase 2, okay, once we've identified our SWOT and we say, okay, look, these are all the things that we've got potentially good. These are things that are potentially bad. Here are some opportunities we've seen. We got to be able to set some goals. In other words, something to aim at. It's like playing darts without having a dartboard, and everywhere you throw is a hole in one, or what do you call it, right in the center. You need to have a dartboard in which to throw things at. These goals that we talked about are called SMART goals because they have 5 essential elements. First of all, they're specific. They're key, clear, understandable. This is what we're going to do. Second of all, they're measurable. At the end, we say we did it or we didn't do it. They're not loosey-goosey. They have to be measurable. They have to be attainable. It's useless to make a goal that is so unrealistic that nobody's ever going to achieve it. However, it has to be big enough so that it's worth looking for. It has to be relevant. Is the goal relevant to our business? If we're in the machining business or if we're in the welding business, the goals need to be relevant to that. And they have to be time-based. In other words, no sense to make a goal that says, I'm going to increase my business by 10%. 10% when? 20 years time, 50%, 20 years time, 50 years time, tomorrow. It's important to have a time with regards to goal. So if we think about, and I got a little video there, I can't show it because it's not working, but if we think about setting goals, we got to think about what are the products and services that we're selling, what's the dollar size, what's the sales, what's the distribution setup, what's the demographic or geographic area, describe the audience in terms of the population, what competitors historically. We got to think about all those things when we're setting our goals to be able to say, here are the goals that really we think that our business could best benefit from. So if we think about Northern Machining, for example, we do a little assessment and we say, okay, what are the products and services we sell? Machining, welding. Okay, very focused. What's the dollar size of the market? Estimated market is $25 million a year. That comes out of Stats Canada, so we can consider it. Yeah, that's a government agency. It's a credible figure. Our goal is to capture 3% in the first year. So 3% of 25 million, you do the math on that, and I think that's around 750,000, that type of thing. What is your sales and distribution setup? We don't really have any active selling. Customer comes to us, so we're kind of reactive. What geographic area? Oil sector, located primarily in Eastern Newfoundland. We're not dealing with anything else. That's the focus. The audience in terms of population demographics. Well, demographics doesn't really apply in a corporate world, but all companies, there's 50 companies that are in the oil business that could relate to our services. What competitors exist? Well, there's 3 companies in St. John's, 1 in Claremont. We got to recognize who else are competing with us. Historically, how well have our products sold? Well, the competitive, if we look at it and we say, look, the competition is doing really well because the market, there's a lot of demand for our products. There's room in the marketplace. The pie is fairly large. We can cut a piece out of it. And if we think about goals, SMART goals, particularly, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, here's an example of 3 specific goals. And usually companies will have no more than 3 goals. So for example, capture 3% of the $25 million oil and gas support market in the first year. Okay, so we've got, it is specific, 3% in the oil and gas market. It's measurable. We know it's a $25 million business, 3%, 750, we can do the math on that. Is it attainable? Well, that's really for us to determine. Can we do $750,000 of business? Do we have the equipment and the people to do that? Is it relevant? Certainly is. That's the business we're in. And time-bound within the first year. Okay, so it meets the test of a SMART goal. The second goal would be to increase our workforce of welders to a total of 3 in the first year of operation. Okay, so we're going out and we're hiring some welders, recognizing that that was one of the weaknesses we identified, or one of the challenges we identified, is that we don't really have enough welders for that business. So to bring up 2 extra welders, is it specific? Yep, 2 extra welders. Is it measurable? Yep, 2 is an easy number to count when you put them on a paycheck. Is it achievable? Well, we assume that there are enough welders out there in the business that we can potentially attract them. Is it relevant? Absolutely. That's our business. And is it time bound within the first year? Certainly is. And the final one is to hire a salesperson within the first 3 months. And again, a salesperson is important because we've identified that customers are coming to us. We thought that maybe it would be better if we could go out and help sell our product. It is achievable, easy to hire a salesperson, relatively relevant. We feel that we can increase our sales, absolutely relevant, and is time bound within 3 months. So those are what are considered SMART goals. Basically, they have all those characteristics of a SMART goal, that it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and most importantly, time bound. The unique selling proposition is another thing that comes up in a lot of companies, and it's the thing, it's a fine little word, but if you ask someone, what do they think about when they think about my business or your business? That's really should hit some key part of the unique selling proposition. In other words, what do I do different, or what do you do different or better or unique to you that allows you to get the business that you get? Okay. And if we think about unique selling proposition and we're not really sure what it is that is, we got to ask questions like, what do your customer love most about your business? What is it that they come back for? What special skills or knowledge do you have that others don't? Again, going back to your strengths. What makes your customers come to you instead of its competitors? Again, strengths. How do your customers benefit by purchasing your product? What's in it for them? Okay. Which aspects do you generally highlight when you describe the business? Again, all that is important to think about because you got to develop, this is what we do. And the unique selling proposition is really, this is what we do. This is what makes us us. And from a marketing point of view, that's key with every business. What do we do unique? And the unique selling proposition, for example, for Northern Machining is its small size, central location, and skilled workforce allows it to address unique customer issues quickly. Speed is our biggest asset. So if you ask, well, what is it we do? We do things well, close to you, and quickly, which is in the oil industry probably the most important thing. They're probably not as interested in price. So if we came up and said, well, our prices are lower, is that relevant to them? May not be. That may not be the major decision maker when they go out and they hire someone. Part and parcel of that is really trying to develop your brand. This unique selling proposition that we just talked about is really a fancy brand. Okay, when we think about brand, we often think about brand names or logos and these sorts of things, and really that idea of the unique selling proposition gets built into the brand. So if I show you a bunch of brands here are some brands that you're probably familiar with: Starrett or General Electric or Rio Tinto. These are companies that have existed a long time and they have a good following. People look to those companies and they expect something of them. If the name represents something, or Apple or IBM or any other company would have, you'd expect something out of it. So that's really that brand. And your unique selling proposition that we've talked about here really is going to be embodied in your brand. People are going to get to know your company as the company that, okay? And instead of trying to please everybody, as I say, you need to really kind of focus in your goals on who is the target market. In this particular company for Northern Machining, it certainly is very clear that they're going after the oil industry, focus in Newfoundland, Eastern Newfoundland. Demographics. Now, demographics doesn't really apply to commercial products, but certainly the oil industry. The behavior, time is the most important factor in the oil industry. That's something we should worry about. And lifestyle, again, lifestyle is more of a consumer thing, but in terms of this, the commercial product, from a lifestyle point of view, they want to be able to do their jobs as quickly as possible. Time is money in that business. And when we think about all of those things, we kind of get them in our head, we can move to the next stage of our planning, which is really the marketing mix, which is dealing with what are the products we're selling? Well, what do our customers want? Those are the products that we should focus on. And then we ask ourselves, which ones are the most profitable? If we identify 6 things our customers want, we can't produce all 6. We just don't have enough resources to do that. What are the ones that produce the most revenue or provide the most benefit to the customer? If we pick two really good ones, we're going to get as much out of doing those 2 really well and focusing on those 2 as anything else. So we really need to think, what is our product? What is the key product offering? What do our customers come for us for? What do they want? The price, again, depending on the type of customer, some customers are not price sensitive. So we should really think about if our customer is not price sensitive, in the case of Northern Machining, for example, price can be higher. And what you're really selling them is the fact that you can get it to them on time. That saves them money in the long run, because the longer it takes to a dead well that's not pumping any oil is very expensive when you consider you're pumping 100,000 barrels a day at $100 a barrel. So you're looking at $10 million a day. So if that thing is set down for one day, that's $10 million in revenue gone. The price you're charging is irrelevant compared to that. So you got to get it out in time. The place, again, closeness is important. You need to be close to your customer. In our example here, you got to consider where is your market, how close are you to it. And the promotion deals with how do you communicate that. And this goal of, for example, having a salesperson might be a good way of managing the promotion. So in order machining, for example, we carry on the example a little bit further. The product is to focus on one-offs rather than mass production. You're a unique machine shop. You're not producing mass-produced things. So that is really what you do. That's your primary gear in terms of what you do. The price, absolute price, might be on the high side, but as I say, relative price might be low because if you can get it to them quickly, downtime costs a lot of money. So time trumps price. Place, close to the customer, needs to be relatively close, and you feel you've got that mix. And promotion, word of mouth and referrals. So this is usually in the world of commercial purchases, referrals. The fact that someone else says you did a good job or that you've done previous work for them and has been a good job, that's what primarily sells your product. So you've gone through all that, and in terms of the planning stage then of this, you need to be able to figure out how we're going to implement it. Okay, so you start moving into this implementation phase. And one of the things is you got to be able to put some money behind this, or you got to be able to put some pricing behind this. If you're going to hire people, if you're going to buy equipment, if you're going to do this, you got to be able to factor that in. So one of the things that is critical for any business is budgeting. Now, we've already looked at this in the previous module, but basically a budget is something that is so simple and so important, yet often so overlooked. The budget is normally a bunch of columns like this. So I've got 4 columns here in this particular example. And we've got, first of all, the basic categories. So I got some sales revenue, interest income, investment income, other income. So those are the first 4 to give you total income and expenses. This is almost identical to an income statement, right? That we've talked about. And what we're doing in a budget like this is we're going to put the first column that says budget amount. And these are educated guesses, okay? Based on previous experience or something like that, you're going to say, okay, well, how much sales do I anticipate this year? And this is for a year, right? It's time bound. So what's my potential sales revenue for the year? What's my potential interest revenue for the year? So we go through each of these rows, each of these items, and we estimate where we are using, again, educated guesses as opposed to just pulling numbers out of the air. So you should be able to go through, for any business, go through at the beginning of the year and to plan your revenues and expenses by building a budget. Now, the purpose of this is not just to build a budget. The purpose of this is to use this as a tool for the control phase, which is the last phase. As much as anything, you want to be able to look at a budget as you move along in the year. So for example, let's say, for example, sales revenue. Let's assume you're 1 month through the year. You know that you're planning, let's say, $1 million in sales revenue, and you go through 1 month and you've made $59.24. Well, that's 1/12 of the year, $59. You're way short. That should be a key to you to say, something's wrong here. We're not doing what we anticipated doing. We need to focus more on our sales. So every month, these numbers would get updated, or as your business goes along, the actual revenues would get updated. And what you're going to do is you're going to look for what's called deviations. In other words, the difference between what you budgeted and what you actually got is going to be checked as you go along. And it should be, ideally, you're going to want it to be as close to your budget as possible. I know with the town we do this, and I'm amazed that at the end of the year, the budget is, if we're talking a $10 million operation called the town, we're off by a few $1,000s, which is infinitesimal. It's so small. So once you get budgeting down to an art, and you can kind of use it to say, look, something's going wrong, or something's not right, or something's doing better than I anticipated, by reviewing what your actuals are versus your budget. And this becomes most relevant at the end of the year when you say, okay, our budget, we anticipated $1 million in sales. We had $2 million in sales. Wow, we did really well on that. That's a positive difference. We like those in terms of revenue. But if we've gone down and we say, okay, look, our installation repair on equipment was really, really high, let's say, higher than your budget, we got to ask ourselves, okay, that welding machine we got cost a lot of money because it was broken down most of the year, and we had to spend a lot of money to fix it. Then you're going to say to yourself, maybe we need a new welding machine. You know, it comes, so it can help you make decisions with regards to, are things happening as you planned? Okay. And if they're not, you can take action, corrective action, to adjust that. And that's really the purpose of a budget, is to use it as a control document to say, are we doing what we figured in terms of revenue? Are we doing what we figured in terms of expenses? And are there some deviations that we should really pay attention to? So you're looking for the deviations really in terms of that. So this idea then of all of this gets put together into what's called a marketing plan, which is part of the plan for a business for the year ahead or for the years ahead, where we kind of lay out what are the goals of the business that we've done there already, what we're able to invest in, so it gives us some focus on where we're going to put our money, and gaps in our marketing. We need, for example, another salesperson, or we need another welder. We got to identify what the biggest gaps are, because we can't fill them all, and look for opportunities. And in those opportunities, what are the things we should focus on? And that kind of allows us to focus on what we should do. So the marketing plan then would give you some sort of a roadmap in your business that allows you to think about the external factors, the opportunities and threats, the internal factors, the strengths and weaknesses, and see how it flows into. So this little diagram right here is exactly what we've done here tonight, is to look at the SWOT, these issues and these issues, and make up the SWOT, and figure out what a customer wants, combining market research in terms of, these are the things that we really feel we can do better, and going through this process in order to be able to meet customers' needs. So, and allows us to kind of plan out, what resources would we need? What organizational format do we need? What developing schedules do we need? We think about, in terms of Northern Machining, for example, the resources, having gone through all this phase, we could say, look, we need to invest in welding equipment to do the type of work that's identified. We need to hire more welders. That's something that we could come out of our analysis. Or in terms of the marketing organization, do we need to go out and visit our potential customers? If we do, we're going to need people to do that, hence the salesperson. Developing schedules. Think about timelines. You need a new welding machine, let's say. Can you buy it tomorrow? No, it takes 6 months. So you've got to start thinking about it now, and the earliest you're going to get it in 6 months' time. So again, scheduling would include lead times on stuff. And with COVID, actually, lead times are really gone all out of whack now. So it takes a long time from the time you recognize the need for it to the time it actually arrives in the door. And the marketing plan really is just writing all that down by any other name. So these are the key things that really allow you to control and manage your business and manage any business to be able to maximize the potential of it. Okay, so that is the application of that strategy. And that's a very important set of tools there that you can use whenever you're thinking about business.